Hello there. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Three Simple Men Making Their Way Through the Galaxy. I am Tom. With me is Ryan and Mike. And today we continue the Star Wars The Clone Wars animated movie, where we left off with Obi-Wan flying down to meet in person with an angry Jabba the Hutt. Fellas, how are we?
Doing good.
So what did we think so far? Let's get into
Well,
it.
I always like to point this out, and I know it's funny too when we happen to do it where we split up a movie. But we start off this part two of the film with a long shot of a spaceship, the traditional kind of starting Star Wars shot, which I thought was interesting. So obviously, realistically they're utilizing that throughout the film or the films. But it's always fun to, I feel like it's just very iconic to kind of have that establishing shot where we kind of get the ship kind of coming over us. So we do get that right in the beginning of this portion, where it's I believe the clone battleship, basically.
Yep. So, like you said, Ryan or Tom, Obi-Wan went to Tatooine to negotiate, and Anakin's been assigned the mission to rescue Jabba's son from pirates or the kidnappers, who we don't know at the time just yet. And then we also get the introduction to Anakin's Padawan, Ahsoka, who, for our fans who are into Star Wars, she now has a Disney Plus series, but we'll get back to the movie and break it down. So, where do we want to start?
Well, first of all, I think where I kind of want to start is, like you said, Mike, is with when Anakin. I guess it's more towards when Anakin was talking to those scout troopers. It's pretty much where they located where the hut is, like Jabba's son is. I don't know if you guys noticed this. Did anyone notice the pattern of those troopers at the time, talking to Anakin about being scout troopers?
It was camo, right?
It's a modern day U.S. Army camo, it seemed like, which I thought was very interesting because I've never seen that type of camo before. I don't think any of us have seen that type of camo before.
No, I think
we were talking about like speeders, scout troopers, and stuff like that, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you get that introduction to the variants of the clone troopers because we're just more used to seeing like the standard issue infantry with their white armor. Then you got Rex and Cody decorating it for their legions. But yeah, Tom, you're right. This is the first time we're seeing the variation of the clone trooper, and particularly that color scheme. So
We get it with some of the pilots though too, I've noticed.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just like the core troops and stuff. Yep.
Yeah. I will say, kind of right in the beginning, we get we get that little introduction, and then we get Obi-Wan landing on Tatooine to talk to he's in a good mood, which he says, which doesn't make a lot of sense because why would he be in a good mood? His son's been kidnapped, but he goes to meet with Jabba the Hutt, and we do get a little fun Jawa interaction outside the palace. But I also noticed, which really stuck out, in Obi-Wan talking to Jabba, he refers to Anakin as one of the most powerful Jedi. He says, "We have one of the most powerful Jedi on a mission to rescue your son." So I think it's the first time we've heard Obi-Wan say something nice about Anakin.
Well, I mean, he is known to be the negotiator, so he's trying to really like assure Jabba that the Republic will rescue his son and they'll gain access to the trade routes, because I believe that's what they said at the beginning. Whoever rescues Jabba's son will have access to trade routes that will give them an advantage over the other during the war. So, yeah.
But I think it's more of not just Obi-Wan just saying Anakin's the most powerful Jedi. I think for Obi-Wan, it's more of like he's trying to assure Jabba that the Jedi that's trying to rescue your son is someone he can trust, someone he's personally knows that's going to get the job done. Whether, beside that conversation aside, Obi-Wan knows Anakin, their relationship, they both know each other way too well. He knows Anakin, but other than that, when it comes to something like this serious, Obi-Wan can be neutral in a way of saying, listen, we have our best and our best Jedi that we've ever seen in God knows how long. He will bring back your son. And that is like the most positive thing Obi-Wan has ever said about Anakin that we've seen so far since Attack of the Clones. Because it's not that Obi-Wan dislikes Anakin, he's just very wary of his tendencies, his traits that he just portrays. Because remember, he started off at an old age for a Padawan.
Yep. So we do get the kind of jumping back and forth from Jabba's palace to the rescue mission. They arrive at what it gets named by, I believe Ahsoka points out, Bomar monks temple.
Monastery, yeah.
Monastery. So we get that with a interesting is it a protocol droid technically?
Little pattern design. It's similar to C3PO, so it's like it is a protocol droid.
Yeah, and then we find out that it's the Separatists who really captured Jabba's son, because you see that protocol droid with Ventress watching the Republic come in. So do see something's afoot here besides, and then the Republic figures it out that, oh yeah, Count Dooku's behind this, and then I think Ahsoka does a episode 3 meme quote with "This is where the fun begins." So we get to see.
She does say so. This is where the fun begins.
Exactly. Well done, Mike. I was about to actually bring that up too. It's like that is the first time we've heard "This is where the fun begins." Yeah. Well done.
Chronologically. Yeah, because as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. So I did notice two things at this part. Yet again, we get the Separatists, in this case Ventress, which has definitely become a reoccurring theme now, failing with a purpose, right? So it appears that the clones and Anakin and Ahsoka have successfully dismantled the droid army or the droids that are there, and that the Separatists have failed. But then we get this kind of communication between Ventress and the droids, and then Ventress and Dooku, where it's, the droids have done their part perfectly, and it's all going to plan. So yet again, we have another, kind of a trickery, strategic move that the dark side tends to do, where they fail according to plan. And then at the same time, we get a reoccurring theme from the Jedi, with Anakin and Ahsoka heading down to the dungeon, where they're walking into a trap, which we see time and time again from Jedi, where they're aware they're walking into the trap, and they want to spring it, basically. So they willingly walk into the trap. We saw Obi-Wan and Anakin doing that a couple episodes ago. And then here we have Anakin and Ahsoka doing it too, which is kind of fun.
That's kind of funny. Ahsoka being the little one, like, oh, I really want to take out these droids. Anakin's like, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that, Jedi just keep walking into a trap. Imagine being a clone trooper right there. Just like a new clone trooper is like being with Anakin Skywalker, and they're just like, wait, it's a trap? It's a trap? Don't worry, kid. This is just another Monday. Don't worry about it. We'll be all right.
I did notice potentially continuity error, but maybe not. Maybe just some information that I didn't necessarily know about when they come on to or they arrive and find young Jabba's son. They think he's sick, and Anakin feels his temperature by touching his head, but he does so with his right hand, which at this point is not just gloved, but mechanical, right? Because it got chopped off. So I guess either continuity error, or we've learned that Anakin's robotic hand has the ability to feel, and not just feel, but feel through gloves. So kind of a little annoying thing I noticed. Annoying being
I've never thought about that. That, whoa, wait a minute.
I mean, I guess
That's a
we know
good
that it does
question.
have pain receptors, right? Because, and now I'm going to skip ahead, but
Yeah.
when Luke, spoilers, but when Luke in a future live action gets his replacement, aren't they? They're pricking his fingers and he's reacting, right, on the fake
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
So they do have feeling in the hand. So I guess that wasn't new, but in this case, he does have the ability to feel
Maybe it's
temperature
just yeah.
through the
I think
glove.
you might be right on that.
So kind of a thing I noticed. I was like, wait a minute, that hand isn't a real hand anymore, right?
But I think when it came towards that scene, I think we saw a shift of a character development with Anakin, in a sense where originally he was not too fond about saving Jabba the Hutt's son,
Still
but then
doesn't
he,
seem to be.
what's that?
I still don't think he is, but
Oh no, he's still not. But when he saw his son being very innocent and very sick, he, in a way, put those feelings aside because he felt, you know, some form of moral compassion for an innocent life because he knows what it's going to be, where he still hates it, but the fact that it's still a very infant, where it can't defend itself, where Anakin is just pretty much, I can't hate something that's never really done anything to affect my past, in a sense.
I don't know. I mean, it definitely takes a little bit longer, right? Because later on, he's like, "We have to go save Rex," and so it was like, "No, we need to save this kid." And even Rex, when he's told like, "We ain't saving you, man," Rex is like, "Yeah, no, mission first. Like, I understand, but like, it seemed like Anakin's feelings almost clouded his judgment, right? And at that point, because he was just like, no, I'm going to go save the people that are fighting for me. That's what I have to do. I'm not going to worry about this mission. And I think part of it probably is still holding on to
And
the
I
fact
think
that
also
he
going
really
back towards
doesn't like
that,
the
I think
Hutts.
there's a very, now that we're starting to see a very well relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin, where the trust is starting to be there, where they're pushing each other. Ahsoka's starting to learn how to be Anakin's apprentice, Anakin being the master, but they're also trying to push each other or try to be one up each other because they're very both competitive. But in a sense, now that Anakin is a master and he's got to look after a youngling's training, I think that comes to effect with listening to what Ahsoka has to say about
Yeah, because I mean,
Jabba's
like
son.
like you were saying earlier, I think there was that one moment when they were either that I think it was in the hall or whatever. Like Anakin had that coaching moment. It was just like, well, what are you trying to prove here, Ahsoka? It's like I'm not trying to be a youngling, or I want to prove to you that I'm worthy to be your Padawan. And Anakin drops a quote. It's like nothing happens by accident, by the will of the Force. And that moment, he kind of instills his confidence in Ahsoka, and she feels comfortable by it. And then like just take some rest while we have it. Um, and yeah, I mean you're right. Anakin was prioritized to he wants to help out Rex, be in the battle, but Ahsoka reminds him that it's our mandate. We got to keep Jabba's son alive. We got to get him back to Tatooine. And yeah, you do see that. I mean, Ahsoka's a little bit of a check on him, but yeah, you're right. You do see that connection starting to form between the two.
I do want to go back to what you said because you stumbled your way into my quote. But it's a wise Jedi once said, "Nothing happens by accident," which is funny because that is Anakin quoting Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon says that in Phantom, but he doesn't say it to Anakin. He says it to Anakin's mother. As far as I remember, Anakin's not even there when he says it. But it is a fun little throwback they put in, because he, that Qui-Gon is in fact the wise Jedi. Another thing that I just thought of as you were talking, Mike, are we? I guess we'll see. But are we ever gonna get a Jedi Padawan that's the appropriate age, right? Because Anakin's too old. Obi-Wan was a little too old.
Ahsoka's too young.
Ahsoka's too young. Some other Jedi will be too old. Like, we never get anyone, like, there's no Jedi that's just like, what is the appropriate age to start your Jedi training? It's like everyone's always like, oh, they're too old, they're too young. We get it again, right? In
it's kind of hard because now you're throwing these fresh Padawans or younglings right into the war. So yeah, you never really get that right Padawan who's living through a time of peace, and yeah, you don't really see them develop. You're just seeing them thrown into the war, and you see the war pretty much being their training.
Yeah, I don't know. It was definitely an interesting thing. So then we move on. Moving back a little because we jumped ahead with some of that, but the fighting within the temple between the clones and the now reemerging separatist army in the attempt, because we've learned the plot now, right? Dooku has arrived at Jabba's palace after Obi-Wan has left and claims that the Jedi have kidnapped Jabba's son, and he has proof because the droids get footage of the rescue, which looks like a kidnapping because
fake news. It's fake news.
But it's because of Anakin's bias, right? He happens to get a clip of him being like, dumb hut, I hate huts or whatever. Like, he's saying it as he's shoving him into a backpack, so it doesn't look good. So the new fight breaks out with the new rescue attempt, right? Where the separatists are now attempting to rescue. Here we do get our third chronological that I've caught Wilhelm scream. Yeah. One of the clones dies. And we get a Wilhelm scream. And yep, at this point, from my tracker, this is the third one. Might have missed some. I don't think so, though. We also get, if I'm correct, I could be wrong. I might have missed it in the past ones, but I believe we get the first reference to the droids by Rex as clankers. I don't think it had happened up until this point yet.
No, you're
because I remember we had talked about them being referred to as seppies in an earlier episode, but now we get clankers, which I'm pretty sure we're going to hear a whole lot more.
Or we're going to hear tinnies, or
yeah, but it's another slang being used to dehumanize the enemy, and they refer to them as clankers, which is fun. Especially in the accent that Rex has, right? And then followed by that, we get a very interesting shot that I don't know if you caught. It was very quick, but we get it's a little bit later after they've been like captured, and the Anakin is like radioing Rex, and he distracts the droid with the comm link, and then starts fighting him off again. We get a POV shot, a first-person shooter shot from Rex, looking down the barrel, shooting the droids, which was, I think, potentially the very first-person shot we've got in all of Star Wars. It was a weird, we usually don't get that. It looked like, obviously like a video game kind of shot. Always Commando. Enjoy it when it's used.
Played it, Mike. Republic Commando, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that pretty much nailed it. That was only like a 2-second thing, but yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and it pulls you, and obviously done for a reason, and I enjoyed it.
As a separatist, and I guess to your point, now we get to see the Republic doing another counterattack, because that's when we see Obi-Wan arriving with his ships, and he's got the cruiser, and Cody's ready for deploy the ground assault and come in, save the day, and Obi-Wan catches up with Rex, and they go inside to find.
Oh wait, hold on. You're skipping over. We get a new named trooper, a
Mm.
pilot named Oddball.
Oddball.
Yep.
We get introduced to Oddball, the clone pilot. I will always try to point out when we get new names of troopers, and
Troopers, pilots.
in this case,
No.
yeah, this pilot, this clone pilot, Oddball. Don't get much with him. It's a very short scene where it's basically just his name and
Obi-Wan
told.
saves him. Yep.
Yep, being told I got you. But yes, then we get the fun battle scene, right? Between the encounter between Obi-Wan and the Ventress.
Which is once again Obi-Wan just being sassy.
The entire
Being
time.
sassy.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah,
whole
the whole,
complete mind game the entire time with him.
But I think another fun fact about what we're seeing now is Obi-Wan's fighting form. His technique has completely changed from when we saw him fight Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones to now. It's more a defensive strategy. I think Mike, do you know what it was? I forgot. It was like a form 3.
Yeah.
Form 3. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the idea that when they fought Dooku, they were going on such the offensive and they failed that he probably
I think
learned from that?
it was more of with him fighting Darth Maul with Qui-Gon than with Dooku. It was more of like being aggressive was never working out for him, to say the least.
Yeah,
so
it was definitely
he approached it
That's
defensively.
true.
Yeah, it was definitely more like the Form 4 that ultimately gave Darth Maul the opening to stab Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan was learning from that experience, and yeah, he switched his form to a Form 3, and you're right, he's definitely improved on that quite a bit from where we saw him in Attack of the Clones, and obviously with that they had the bot strategy of taking them together. Anakin rushed in, and Obi-Wan was on his own, and fighting someone like Dooku for the first time. Yeah, he got overpowered very quickly, but over time with that, he's really honed in more on defensive stuff and being a little flirty during the battle with Ventress. So you see a little bit of that sass and that we saw in what was it, a couple weeks ago with the first
introduction of Ventress, right? Yeah, to us at least chronologically.
But I give him a pass on Attack of the Clones because it's not his fault that Anakin's just a horny teenager during that time with Padme. But I digress.
Yep. So we see Ventress, having dual lightsabers. At one point, she switches to double bladed, and obviously with Obi-Wan, like swipe in the middle, then disarms her.
I did not notice that could happen. That she made it double bladed. I thought it was two singular lightsabers. The minute she made it double bladed, it blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which at the same time probably brought some things back for Obi-Wan that he was like, nope, not dealing with this again.
And yeah, certainly learning from that fight with Darth Maul, just overhead swipe, and obviously with him being defensive, he's very good at disarming people. And we saw him literally chop off Zam Wessel and Attack of the Clones, but he just simply disarmed the lightsaber out of Ventress' hand, and she probably would have had both. She would have lost her other saber had she not fallen back and called for the droid to get her out of there. So
I think disarming was disarming seemed to be like the whole strategy, right? I mean, not just physically, but also mentally. He's constantly calling her darling. He's even towards the end, he's basically telling her like, hey, you failed. There's no reason to fight anymore. Like, he's just basically the entire time, it's just trying to disarm her, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
But with him, well, the fact that we found out that she can make it a double-bladed lightsaber, and then once Obi-Wan cut it and like split it right down in half, where it's like just two singular lightsabers, where it's going to come into my hot take right now is pretty much like, now it's like, does this mean Ventress, as talented as she is, does she have to readjust her fighting skills because she doesn't have that ability to connect the lightsabers anymore? So she's gonna have to continue fighting with 2 different lightsabers in both hands instead of.
Well, I mean, every other time we've seen her fight so far, it's been the dual
It's been
wielding. So I would
absolutely.
assume that she prefers the dual wielding, but
Yeah.
I think it's just a level of being consistent with knowing that you don't have that option anymore.
Yeah, I
and I
mean,
guess
she's got that style from Dooku a bit, because I mean, with Dooku, he's like more of the fencer. I mean, and he knows the other styles pretty well. So I mean, just given the same curved lightsabers to Ventress, and you know, she's definitely more on the defensive with that than Dooku.
Dooku only has 1 lightsaber. Dooku
Yeah.
hasn't ever really, that we've known or seen, have to deal with having 2 different lightsabers in both hands. So this could be a different fighting form strategy for her, where
Yeah.
she's got to learn it for herself.
Well, I wonder if she ever gets them fixed. Do we ever see her? Will we ever see her fight again with a dual, with a double bladed, with the dual stuck together, or is it always going to be the dual wielding? And then my next step forward with that would be, I know we're watching it story wise chronologically, but is it a chronological error, and was, because this movie came out before, right? This movie came out before the show, the episode we already
the
watched with
animated
her,
series.
where she only is using the dual. So was it originally, oh, she had the ability to make it the double bladed, but then Obi-Wan destroyed that and then it never got fixed? So then she just always went dual after that. And is that kind of something that they might have done?
I guess we'll just have to, you know, watch some
Yeah,
more
keep an eye out.
lightsaber duels and see what happens if we see Ventress fighting double bladed, or you know, sticking with the traditional dual wield that she's used to. So I would say chronologically, you know, let's see what these other episodes have to offer. So
So we do get the realization from Anakin and Ahsoka that they cannot land on the battleship to get to the med bay because it gets destroyed when the shields get opened up. So they decide they have to head straight to Tatooine in this transport ship, whatever. I don't know what type of ship it is. Well, so I wanted to say that. So then Obi-Wan learns of this and refers to it as a bucket of bolts, which is also a reference to something we have not watched yet chronologically, but that is a quote that is used again in A New Hope by Princess Leia. So she's the one who.
Empire Strikes Back, because she's like,
Oh, maybe it's Empire. Maybe it's Empire Strikes Back. Sorry, in the original trilogy.
yeah.
I didn't look it up. I was just remembering that Leia says it. Does refer to a ship that we also haven't met yet chronologically, but we'll go ahead and name it the Millennium Falcon, which I'm realizing we won't see until Solo, right? Is that going to be our first?
Yes, I think
it?
Solo might be the one. Yeah.
That's gonna be wild. That'll be very
Well, I
interesting.
think
We'll get to that
you
on.
may see a small glimpse of it in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, there is
maybe.
that Easter egg. Yep, I know
That
what
Easter egg.
exactly you're talking about.
All right, let's that's
We're
my
way
fault.
ahead of
I'm
ourselves.
getting us way ahead of ourselves. But
Yeah.
yes, so we do get it referred to as bucket of bolts. And then do we want to head to the end there, or did you guys, because I had one more thing at the last scene that I wanted to talk about, but before I get to Dooku and Jabba's palace, did you guys have anything?
No, it's just, you know, to see the banter between Anakin and Ahsoka at one point. It's like, oh, here comes Master Kenobi with the fireworks. Anakin's like, oh, what are you talking about? What do you think we're doing all day? It's like, oh, you're reckless. And just like you started to see like that. Oh, Sky Guy Snips banter. So I thought that was pretty funny during that. And um yeah, no, I guess we'll take it to the end. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so we end with basically Ventress reaching out to Dooku and informing him that she failed and Anakin got away, and she does not have Jabba's baby, but then chooses to lie and say that Anakin killed Jabba's baby, in another attempt to continue the gaining of Jabba's trust, which we'll see how
Fake news.
how that plays out.
Fake news.
But Dooku then says, you know, he'll handle it, or that Anakin's on his way and he'll handle him, and we get the first introduction of the I don't know what they're called, but they're the droids with the purple,
The Magna Guards, yeah.
Magna
Guards
Guards that
yeah.
have the dual wielding purple, I don't know, what do you call those, like energy
Electro staff, yeah.
staffs. So I thought that was kind of cool that we get to see those guys for the first time. And hopefully we see them in action in our next part. Any other deep dives, Mike, or anything else from you guys?
No, I mean, also we see that Anakin and Ahsoka do find a way to cure the kid, and then they are on their way to Tatooine, and Anakin, of course, being the mechanic that he is, he's getting the ship fixed up to make sure they get there safely.
As always, they have R2.
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't really. We kind of breezed over R2, huh? He was pretty effective. He slams the door in Ventress's face this episode. He jet packs over or uses his rocket
He's
boosters.
just being him sassy. So between R2 and Obi-Wan together would be, I can't even imagine. But that's just it for me.
All right. Well, with that, Mike.
That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for listening in to Three Simple Men making their way through the galaxy. Hit that like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in next week as we wrap up the Clone Wars animated movie. May the Force be with you, always.